We recorded our Christmas morning like we did every year, but when we watched it back, there was someone standing behind us in every single shot. December 2018. My husband Marcus and I had 3 kids. Olivia was 9, Tyler was 6, and baby Mia had just turned 1. Marcus was obsessed with documenting everything. Every birthday, every holiday, every milestone. He'd set up the camcorder on a tripod in the corner of the living room and just let it run for hours. For when they're older, he'd always say. That Christmas morning, he set it up at 6 a.m. before the kids woke up. Pressed record. Then we got coffee and waited for the chaos to start. It was perfect. The tree lit up, presents everywhere, the kids screaming and laughing. We didn't watch the footage until 3 days later. We were at Marcus's parents' house for dinner. The kids were playing upstairs. Marcus pulled out his laptop to show his mom the Christmas video. We all gathered around the screen. The video started. The empty living room, the tree twinkling. Then you could hear the kids' doors opening upstairs, their footsteps thundering down the stairs. Marcus's mom smiled. Oh, this is precious. Then Olivia ran into frame, Tyler right behind her, and Marcus's mom stopped smiling. Who is that? What? Marcus asked. She pointed at the screen. In the background, barely visible in the hallway, there was a figure, tall, still, watching the kids. Marcus paused the video. We all leaned in. It was dark in the hallway. We never turned those lights on, but you could make out a shape, human-shaped, standing just beyond the doorframe. That's just a shadow, Marcus said, but his voice was uncertain. He rewound it, played it again. The figure didn't move, just stood there as the kids ran past, completely oblivious. Maybe it's a coat on the hook, I said, but we didn't have a coat hook in that hallway. Marcus's dad cleared his throat. Keep playing it. Marcus hit play. The video continued. Me walking into frame, laughing, picking up Mia. Marcus joining us with his coffee. The figure was still there. Then the camera angle shifted slightly. Just the natural shake of the tripod. And for a split second, you could see more of the hallway. The figure had moved, closer to the doorway, still watching. Pause it, I said. Marcus did. We stared at the screen. You still couldn't see details. No face, no features, just a dark silhouette. But it was definitely closer than before. This is a trick of the light, Marcus said. It has to be. His mom was shaking her head. Play more. The video jumped ahead. Tyler opening a present. Olivia helping Mia with the wrapping paper. The figure was in the background of every shot. Sometimes in the hallway, sometimes near the Christmas tree. Once, standing behind the couch where I was sitting. Close enough that if I'd turned around, I would have seen it. But in the video, I never turned around. None of us did. We went home that night and watched the entire 2-hour video. All of it. The figure appeared in 43 different shots. Sometimes stationary, sometimes moving between frames. Always watching. In one shot, it was standing directly behind Tyler while he played with his new race car set. So close that its shadow fell across his shoulder. But Tyler never noticed. None of the kids did. This doesn't make sense, Marcus kept saying. We would have seen someone. The house isn't that big. I was thinking the same thing. Our living room opened into the kitchen. There was nowhere to hide. And we would have heard someone. The floors creaked. The kids were everywhere. But there it was. Clear as day on video. Someone had been in our house. For hours. We need to call the police, I said. Marcus nodded, but he looked sick. Because we were both thinking the same thing. If someone had been there Christmas morning, Where were they now? The police came the next day. We showed them the video. The officer watched in silence, rewound certain parts, watched them again. Finally, he closed the laptop. "Ma'am, sir, I'm not going to lie to you. This is disturbing. But there's no evidence of a break-in. Your doors were locked that morning?" "Yes," Marcus said. "Windows?" "All locked. I checked them Christmas Eve." The officer nodded slowly. "We can dust for prints, but if someone was here and they didn't take anything, didn't hurt anyone, and there's no sign of forced entry." "What are you saying?" I asked. He hesitated. "I'm saying we'll file a report, but without more evidence, there's not much we can do." After he left, Marcus and I just sat there. "Maybe it's a camera glitch," he said quietly. "Some kind of digital artifact. In 43 separate shots." He didn't answer. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the figure behind the couch, behind Tyler, in the hallway. I got up and walked through the house. Every room, every closet, every corner. Nothing. But when I got to the living room, I stopped. The camcorder was still on the tripod in the corner, right where Marcus had left it, and the record light was on. "Marcus," I whispered, shaking him awake. "Marcus, the camera's been recording." He sat up, groggy. "What?" "Since Christmas. It's been recording this whole time." We went downstairs together. The timestamp on the camera read 73 hours of footage. Marcus's hands were shaking as he rewound it. We watched the last few hours first. Our empty living room, dark, still. Then Marcus fast-forwarded. The footage sped up. Day turned into night, turned into day. Us walking through, kids playing, normal life. Then he slowed it down. 3 a.m., 2 nights after Christmas. The living room was dark except for the glow of the Christmas tree lights. And there, standing in the hallway, the figure. It wasn't moving, just standing there, watching the camera. Marcus's breath caught. Oh God. Because this time the hallway light was on, and we could see its face. It didn't have one. Just a blank, smooth surface where a face should be. But it was looking at us, directly at the camera, like it knew we'd be watching. Then it moved. Slowly. Deliberately. It walked toward the camera. Closer. Closer. Until it filled the entire frame. Then the footage cut to black. We moved out the next week. Stayed in a hotel while we broke our lease. The landlord tried to fight us on it. But when we showed him the video, he went quiet. Other tenants complained, he finally said. Before you. I thought they were just trying to get out of the lease. What did they say? Marcus asked. That someone was in their house. That they saw it on their baby monitor. We never went back for our things. Marcus's brother packed up the house for us. He said he felt watched the entire time. We still have the footage, backed up on an external hard drive. Sometimes I think about deleting it, but I can't. Because there's one part we noticed later, when we went through everything frame by frame. In the very first shot of Christmas morning, when the living room was empty, before the kids woke up, if you turn the brightness all the way up, you can see it. Sitting on the couch, waiting. If you record your family, watch the footage. Not for memories, for what you didn't see in the moment. Because cameras capture everything, even the things that don't want to be seen. And if you find something in the background of your videos, something that shouldn't be there, don't assume it's a glitch. Ask yourself why it wanted to be recorded. My dad came home late on Christmas Eve, 2 years after we buried him. It was 2017. I was 16. My mom had been doing better. going to grief counseling, sleeping through the night, even putting up a small tree that year. My little brother Jake was 8. He barely remembered Dad anymore. The cancer took him fast when Jake was 6. We developed a routine, a new normal. Mom would make hot chocolate. We'd watch a movie. Go to bed early so Christmas morning would come faster. But that night, around 11 p.m., we heard the front door open. Mom was in the kitchen. I was on the couch with Jake. We all heard it. The distinct sound of the deadbolt turning, the door opening, footsteps in the entryway. Heavy, familiar. Mom came out of the kitchen, dish towel still in her hands. The footsteps stopped. "Hello?" Mom called out. No answer. She walked toward the entryway, and I followed her. The front door was closed, but it had been locked. I'd checked it myself an hour earlier. "Maybe it didn't latch," Mom said, but her voice was shaking. She locked it again. We went back to the living room. Jake was staring at the hallway. "Was that Daddy?" Mom's face went pale. "No, baby. Daddy's. That was just the wind." "It sounded like his boots," Jake said. He was right. It had. Dad always wore these heavy work boots, even in the house. Mom used to yell at him for it. That specific sound. The heel hitting the floor first, then the toe. We'd all heard it. Mom put Jake to bed early. Told him Santa couldn't come if he was awake. I stayed up with her. We didn't talk about it. Just sat in the living room, both of us pretending to watch TV. At midnight, we heard it again. Footsteps. Upstairs this time, in the hallway outside Jake's room. Mom stood up so fast she knocked over her mug. We both ran upstairs. Jake's door was open. He was sitting up in bed, smiling. Daddy came to say goodnight. Mom rushed to him. "Jake, what are you talking about?" "He was just here. He tucked me in." The blanket was pulled up to his chin. I hadn't heard anyone come upstairs except us. Mom checked the closet, under the bed, the bathroom. Nothing. "Sweetie, you were dreaming," she said. But her hands were shaking when she kissed his forehead. After we left his room, Mom stood in the hallway. "Did you pull his blanket up?" she whispered to me. "No." "Did you?" She shook her head. We'd both been downstairs. Mom didn't sleep that night. Neither did I. We sat in the living room with every light on, waiting for morning. At 3 a.m., we heard his voice. Sarah. Mom's name. It came from the kitchen. Quiet, gentle, exactly like my dad used to say it. Mom started crying. "This isn't happening," she whispered. "Sarah." Closer this time, in the dining room. I grabbed her arm. "We should leave." But she was already standing up, walking toward the sound. "Mom, don't." She went into the dining room. I followed her, my heart hammering. Nothing was there. But the chair at the head of the table, Dad's chair, was pulled out, like someone had just been sitting there. Mom touched the seat. "It's warm," she breathed. Christmas morning came. Jake ran downstairs like nothing had happened. He opened his presents, ate his pancakes, played with his new toys, but he kept looking at the stairs. "Is Daddy coming down?" he asked. "No, honey," Mom said, her voice cracking. "Daddy's not here. But he said he'd watch me open presents." Mom and I looked at each other. "When did he say that?" I asked. "Last night, when he tucked me in." Mom's face went white. "Jake, what exactly did Daddy say to you?" Jake smiled. "He said he missed us, and that he's been here the whole time, watching." That afternoon, Mom called my aunt, told her everything. My aunt came over. She's the religious one. Brought her Bible, blessed the house, prayed in every room. When she got to Jake's room, she stopped. "How long has that been there?" she asked. She was pointing at his closet door. There was a handprint, adult-sized, on the inside of the door, at Jake's eye level, like someone had been standing in the closet, watching him through the crack. That night, I couldn't take it anymore. I went into my parents' room, the one Mom still couldn't sleep in. All of Dad's things were still there, his clothes in the closet, his cologne on the dresser. I opened his nightstand drawer. His wallet was inside, his watch, his wedding ring. And underneath, folded carefully, was a piece of paper. I unfolded it. It was a letter, in Dad's handwriting, dated 3 days before he died. "Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. I need you to know something. The night before my diagnosis, I made a deal. I was desperate, scared. A man came to me in a dream and offered me more time. He said I could stay, be there for the kids, for you. I said yes. I didn't understand what he meant. I'm so sorry. If anything feels wrong after I'm gone. If you hear me, see me, feel me, don't trust it. It's not me anymore. Please, burn this house down if you have to. Just don't let it stay." My hands were shaking. I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around. He was standing in the doorway. My dad, exactly as I remembered him. Same flannel shirt, same boots, same smile. But his eyes were wrong, too dark, too still. "Hey, sweetheart," he said. His voice was perfect, but it didn't sound like it was coming from his mouth. "You're not my dad." His smile widened. "I'm exactly who you want me to be." I ran. We left that night. Mom, Jake, and me. We packed one bag each and walked out. Mom called a priest, then a realtor. We never went back inside. The house sold within a month. The new family moved in. 3 weeks later, they moved out. They didn't say why. My aunt told me later she drove by the house one night. Every light was on, and someone was standing in the upstairs window, watching the street. Jake still talks about Dad sometimes, says he misses him. But sometimes, late at night, he'll look at his closet door and whisper, "That wasn't really him, was it?" I tell him no. But the truth is, I don't know what it was, just that it knew us, knew exactly what we wanted. And it's still waiting. Grief makes you vulnerable. It opens doors you didn't know were there. And sometimes, something walks through. If someone you lost comes back, if you hear them, see them, feel them in ways that don't make sense, ask yourself one question. Would they really want you to be this afraid? Because the dead don't haunt us, but something else will if we let it. The family who told me this didn't report it. They didn't call the police. They just moved. Because when you realize what was actually happening, calling someone doesn't feel like enough. What I'm about to tell you isn't folklore. It's what happens when you ignore the signs until it's too late. My daughter told me Santa was already in the house, 3 hours before I'd finished setting up the presents. It was Christmas Eve, 2019. My husband was deployed. I was alone with our 2 kids in a rental house we'd moved into 4 months earlier. Emma was 6, still believed, still checked the window for reindeer. I'd waited until she was asleep to bring the gifts in from the garage. It was 1 a.m. The house was silent except for the furnace kicking on every few minutes. Then I heard her door open. She came down the hallway in her snowman pajamas, rubbing her eyes. I barely had time to shove the bike behind the couch. "Baby, what are you doing up?" She looked at me confused. I heard Santa. He was talking in the living room. I crouched down to her level. "Sweetie, that was just me. I was wrapping something." She shook her head. "No, Mommy. It was a man. He said," She's still awake." My stomach dropped. I walked her back to her room, checked the closet under the bed, tucked her in, told her it was a dream. But after I closed her door, I stood in the hallway and listened. The house was still. Too still. I went back to the living room and finished setting up, hung the stockings, ate the cookies she'd left out, drank the milk. I even left crumbs on the plate like I always did. But the whole time, I kept glancing at the hallway. When I finally went to bed, I locked my bedroom door. Christmas morning, Emma didn't run to the tree like usual. She came into my room and climbed into bed with me. "Did Santa leave?" she whispered. "Of course he did, baby. Let's go see what he brought." She didn't move. "Emma, what's wrong?" She looked at me with this strange, serious expression. "He didn't leave, Mommy. I saw him watching me from the hallway." I felt my chest tighten. "When?" "This morning, before you woke up." I forced a smile. Told her it must have been a shadow, that she was still sleepy. We went to the living room. She opened her presents. We FaceTimed my husband overseas. Everything seemed normal. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what she'd said. He was talking in the living room. I hadn't been talking. I'd been silent the whole time, terrified of waking them. At 3 a.m., I got up and walked through the house. I checked every window, every door, all locked. Then I went into the living room and stood where I'd been wrapping presents. That's when I noticed it. The carpet near the fireplace. There were footprints in the fibers. Not mine. Bigger. Boot-shaped. Leading from the fireplace to the hallway. I told myself it was my husband's boots from months ago, that I was being paranoid. But the next night, Emma woke up screaming. I ran to her room. She was sitting up in bed, pointing at her closet. "He's in there!" I turned on every light, opened the closet. Nothing but clothes and toys. "Emma, there's no one here." "He was just there, Mommy. He had a red hat." I pulled her into my arms. She was shaking. "What did he look like, baby?" "Like Santa." But his face was wrong. Wrong how? His smile was too big. I kept her in my bed that night. And the next. But it didn't stop. She started saying she heard him in other rooms. The basement. The kitchen. Always when I wasn't looking. One morning, I found her standing at the top of the basement stairs. "Emma, get away from there." She didn't move. "He wants me to come down." I grabbed her and pulled her back, slammed the basement door shut. That's when I started to believe her, because I'd been hearing things too. Footsteps on the stairs when I was alone, the creak of a door opening. And once, late at night, I could have sworn I heard someone breathing in the hallway outside my room. I called my mom. She said Emma was just having nightmares. Post-Christmas excitement. Missing her dad. But my mom didn't hear what I heard 3 nights later. I was lying in bed, door locked, when I heard Emma's door open. Then her little footsteps in the hallway. Then she stopped. Right outside my door. "Emma," I whispered. No answer. I got up and opened the door. She was standing there in the dark, staring at me. "Baby, what's wrong?" Her voice was flat. "He wants to show me something." "Who?" "Santa." She turned and started walking toward the stairs. I grabbed her. "Emma, stop!" She didn't struggle, didn't react, just kept staring at the stairs. I picked her up and carried her back to my room, locked the door, turned on every light. She blinked, like she was waking up. "Mommy? Why are we in your room?" She didn't remember. The next day, I went into the basement. I don't know why. I just knew I had to. It was unfinished. Cold. The landlord had said they used it for storage. There were boxes along the walls, old furniture, a workbench, and in the back corner, behind a stack of plastic bins, there was a sleeping bag. It was laid out flat, like someone had been using it. Next to it was a gas station coffee cup. Recent. The lid was still on, and on the wall above it, written in pencil, "She still believes." I ran upstairs, grabbed the kids, and left. We stayed in a hotel. I called the landlord. He said he'd check the house. 2 hours later, he called me back. There's a crawl space behind the basement wall. The access panel was loose. Was anyone there? Long pause. No, but someone had been. There was a blanket, some food wrappers, and a Santa suit. I asked if he called the police. He said he did. They found evidence someone had been living in the crawl space for weeks, maybe longer. There was a small hole drilled through the wall into Emma's closet. We never went back. My husband came home early. We broke the lease, moved in with my parents until we found another place. Emma doesn't talk about it much now, but she stopped believing in Santa that year. And sometimes, late at night, she still asks me, "Mommy, how did he know my name?" I never told her. But I found something in one of the boxes when we unpacked. A photo from Christmas morning. I'm in the background, setting up the presents, and in the hallway, just barely visible in the shadows, there's a figure, watching. If your child says they hear someone in the house, listen. Not because they're right, but because sometimes they are. And the difference between a nightmare and a warning is whether you check before it's too late. If you've ever felt watched in your own home, if your kids ever said something that made your skin crawl, you weren't overreacting. Trust that feeling.